The Motor Dream podcast is recorded on Wallamedigal land of the Eora Nation. It always was and always will be the lands of the First Nations of Australia.
This is the Motor Dream podcast.
Hello there, and welcome to this, the 13th episode of the Motor Dream podcast, the show where we can dream just a little about what our dream garage would be if money was no issue whatsoever. I'm Connor McNally, and it is a pleasure to have you join me once again. Now, as you may recall, on the last episode, we had Supercars big screen reporter Charlie Barlow as our guest, and the response from her appearance was very positive. To those who reached out, thank you so much for your kind feedback. And given the Repco Supercars Championship is now in full swing, we've decided to keep the Supercars field going with a current driver who has found himself in a very unique situation right now. I'll touch on that a little later in the show. For now, if you're new to the podcast, well, here's how the podcast works. I tell my guests that one day they wake up and they check their phones to discover that they receive a text to say that they need to check their bank balance. They then open their bank app and suddenly discover that their bank balance has gone to infinity. They are instant billionaires. As soon as they discover their newfound fortune, they get an email from this mystery benefactor and it tells them that they can spend anything that they like and they can buy any car, bike or machine that they want. There is a catch though. They are only allowed 3 cars, bikes and machines in their dream garage. It sounds easy in theory, but as my previous guests have already discovered, it is very, very hard to decide. You'll get to hear from drivers and riders from within the motorsport game, as well as those who work in the industry, and on the odd occasion, you'll hear from some prominent personalities who all share the same passion of cars and bikes, as well as motoring. Now, the saying goes that to get your big break, be it as a sports person, in business or in life, it's a case of being in the right place at the right time. Sometimes it's more than just luck and being in that right place that can get you somewhere. In the world of motor racing, money usually rules the roost over natural talent and luck alone. But what if natural talent and luck actually played out to your benefit? Well, that's exactly what happened to my guest on this episode, Todd Hazelwood. Having attended his first race meeting at the tender age of 6 weeks old, he started out his racing career in dirt karts at the age of 7, where he won 3 state titles. He quickly transitioned to tarmac karting in 2008, where he competed at the highest level of the sport at state and national level before graduating to Formula Ford in 2010. After a few seasons honing his craft, he moved up to Formula 3 and the Australian Drivers' Championship in 2013, finishing runner-up to eventual champion Tim Macro. And he did all this by conducting fundraising drives at the local Bunnings warehouse Sausage Sizzles, which funded his full season campaign for that year. But it was winning the Shannons Supercar Showdown that very same year which would transform his career. After winning the made-for-TV talent contest and the subsequent test drive with Tickford Racing, now former team boss Tim Edwards put him in touch with Matt Stone, who was about to embark on a campaign in Super 2 with support from businessman and racer Jason Gomersall. And in 2014, Todd's supercar career began. 4 years in Super 2 culminated in winning the Mike Kable Rookie of the Year that very same year, and the Super 2 title in 2017, before he and Matt Stone Racing moved up to the main game full-time in 2018, where he's been a mainstay ever since. He spent his first 3 seasons with MSR before joining Brad Jones Racing in 2020 for 2 seasons, and it was the latter where he broke through for his maiden pole position in Townsville and maiden podium at Sydney Motorsport Park during the COVID-affected 2020 championship. Todd would have returned to MSR in 2022 before he joined the Blanchard Racing team last year, and it is where we pick up on the Todd Hazelwood story. This interview was recorded halfway through last year's championship during his first season with BRT, as well as the first season of Supercars under the Gen 3 regulations. But there's more to Todd Hazelwood than just motor racing. He has a real passion for old cars, especially old Fords, and he has already embarked on 2 restoration projects, a Ford Falcon XE station wagon and a British-built but Australian-assembled Ford Zephyr that sat idle in a barn on the family farm in South Australia for many years. It also helps that he grew up in a family who are just as passionate about motoring and motorsport as he is. Considered by many to be one of the most likeable drivers in the supercars paddock, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Todd Hazelwood to the Motor Dream podcast. Todd Hazelwood, welcome to the Motor Dream podcast. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you. Great to be a part of it, and look forward to having a good chat about cars, which is, that's what I live and breathe and absolutely love.
Absolutely, and you driving it as well. You're actually my very first guest that competes in the Supercars Championship, so wear that as a badge of honour. It's great to have you on. You've been racing for more than 20 years, and your bio says on your website that you first experienced motorsport from just 6 weeks old. So it's been something that has been a part of your life from the moment you were born, and it's like an addiction, isn't it? You really love being around cars, being around motorsport. It's your life, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Being involved in, I guess, being surrounded by cars, being in motorsport, as you mentioned, pretty much since the day I could talk and or the day I could walk as well. And it's a way of life for me, I guess. It's something that I really enjoy. I'm passionate about it. And for me, it's, I find it really fulfilling. There's, the motorsport industry is obviously it's a huge challenge. It's one of the toughest sports in the world to be successful in, I believe. But then the other side of it is that I'm just a massive car guy. I love the automotive history. There's so many, I guess so many elements to, motorsport that I love, but just being a cool, I love being a car guy as well. I love my old cars in particular. Love anything that goes slow or fast, to be fair. So it's not always about going fast.
That's true.
Appreciating cool cars.
You grew up in a family that absolutely adores motorsport. Your parents are very much involved. They've been a huge support in your career. Your sister's also involved in motorsport with Lauren. She's involved with Motorsport Australia. So it's very much a family thing for you, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I guess my mum and dad, they were huge race fans of MotoGP or equivalent of MotoGP back in the day. And my dad used to do desert racing on motorbikes and when he was a young lad. But I guess I grew up in a family that was, I guess, somewhat obsessed with the sports. And that was, I guess, where my love for the sport came from, because I would be sitting there on the couch watching the races with them. And, the dream of being on the other side of that TV one day was what we all imagined and talked about all the time. So, it's quite surreal to, I guess, put my hand up and say that I'm one of 25 drivers that get to call themselves a supercars driver here in the pinnacle of Australian motorsport, which is really special and something I'll never, ever take for granted. It's, been obviously a huge journey to get to this point. I mentioned 20 years in the sport now. It's certainly, I think the grey hairs are coming through to prove that. It's been a hell of a journey and, wouldn't change it for anything.
Absolutely. You started in the Supercars Championship in 2017. You drove for Matt Stone Racing, and you had the support of not just Matt Stone, but you also had the support of Jason Gomersall, who really backed you in those early days of your Supercars career. Of course, prior to that, you won Super 2. Everyone remembers that you won that against the might of some of the bigger teams in the Super 2 game, Triple Eight, MW Motorsport, and the like. And you really made your mark with your natural talent. Everyone raved about how naturally gifted you are as a driver. And now you've made your mark in your own way by basically punching above your weight, I guess you could say, in cars that, I guess, not as technically advanced as some of the main teams, but you've done so well, driving for Matt Stone Racing on 2 occasions, Brad Jones Racing, and now with the Blanchard Racing team. You've come a long way from those days in 2017 when you started out fresh-faced and, being on that other side of the fence that you so dreamed of.
Yeah, exactly. I actually had a Facebook memory pop up the other day, and it was my debut as a rookie when we did a wildcard appearance in 2017. It was my first main series start, and I remember that buzz and excitement that was in the belly at that moment, and think, wow, 6 years ago now, over 6 years, that was that was a big moment. So a lot has been learned. There's been a lot of battles. Probably more lows than highs, unfortunately, to my liking. But it's been one hell of a journey. I've been fortunate to be able to stay in the sport for this long in the top tier. It's a cutthroat industry. It's savage what goes on behind scenes as a driver's point of view. And you throw in the mix of COVID and everything else. It's been a really interesting time being in the sport. I guess, in Supercars pit lane for over 10 years now, if you're combining Super 2 and my main series career. So, yeah, there's been a lot of changes in a short amount of time, to be fair. So to still be in the sport, racing for the family at Blanchard Racing, Nicole Drive Mustang, it's been a real honour this year. Fantastic family operated business, and, the car itself is, spectacularly built. It's one of the best looking cars on the grid. I might be a little bit biased, obviously, but it does look amazing. So yeah, really, from my point of view, it's been a I guess up and down journey in main game supercars. Obviously for me, when I stepped out of Super 2 and we had a successful year and I proved what I could do in the sport behind the wheel, the aim was to obviously put myself in a position where I could win races and do that consistently. Obviously I haven't been able to achieve that yet. So there's still plenty of fire burning in the belly to be able to, I guess, make that next step as a driver and get the most out of me. Always learning, still learning every day of the week in this game. So I've had a pole and I've had a podium, but certainly want to get that first race win.
I know.
Before it's too late.
I kind of feel like you're doing yourself a bit of a disservice, because you did say just then, and I was going to bring it up, you have got a pole position, you've had a couple of podiums as well, so you've done pretty well, for someone that is really, as I said, punching above their weight, but you've done it with the small group of people that have really supported you in the teams that you've driven for. Matt Stone Racing, a family business, obviously lineage to the Stone brothers. Brad Jones Racing, that's a true family team in itself, and that culture has always been there of being a family. But now you're with the Blanchard Racing team. All of them have their own traits on being successful. What's been the great thing so far about racing for Blanchards?
Oh, it's just they're very family orientated. That's the best part. I come from a family where I have huge family support, like as you mentioned earlier, from not only just my mum and dad, but also my sister and anyone else that was involved in the family that wanted to help me succeed. So seeing those traits in the team is really important. So it's pretty cool when you got Tim's mum and stepdad, cooking and catering, and nice. John's there behind the scenes helping out wherever he can. He wants to be involved and help, and you don't get that too often and too many other teams up and down pit lanes. So it's a great thing to have.
What's it like racing a current generation supercar compared to the previous generation, the car of the future that we knew for the last 10 years? They're obviously two very different types of car, but what's been the major difference between car of the future / Gen 2 to the current generation now?
Oh, yeah, where do I start? Get the notepad out. It's going to be a long list.
Okay, I've got the notepad. It's ready to go.
But, look, the cars themselves, they still feel like a supercar, still drive like a supercar. We've still got the same tyre, roughly the similar horsepower. But, they are a unique beast. They're fairly different to what we're used to. But I think they're good. The racing, I think, has been better as far as being able to race each other harder and closer together. We saw on the weekend that no one was talking about aero wash at Sydney and all that sort of stuff. So I think that's a big tick in the box as far as what they've achieved with the aerodynamics of the car. And from a driver's point of view, you feel like you really are behind the wheel working hard. You're driving so sensitively on the tyre, trying to maximize it, but it's so easy to overstep it and push too hard as well. So yeah, they're a tough beast to drive, which is great. That's what we want as drivers. So, the cars themselves, obviously, they've been a challenge from the get-go with the Gen 3 product, but keeping in mind that there is, probably 90% of the car is totally different to what we've had in the last 20 years in the sport. Obviously, the engine was a big part of that. We've essentially ran that same 5-litre pushrod V8 for year on, year out, and it was so well refined. When you have such a refined product, you often take for granted how good it actually was, I think. So now that we've started fresh with a blank canvas with a brand new product, brand new engine, it's a little bit rough and ready, but we're getting there. We're making good progress, I think, as a sport. And, hopefully in time it will come to life, and we'll stop talking about parity. We'll stop talking about mechanical issues and all the rest of it, because, that's the end of the day, it is a motorsport.
Yes.
And that's the unique thing with our sport, is that we have mechanical elements and we have technology, and when we try to look to the future, it's not always going to be perfect. It's like when you look at even F1. Red Bull weren't winning there for for a number of years, but now they're on a winning streak and they're winning all the time. So every team, every sporting code goes for a period where it's not perfect. It's a bit rough and ready, but I think our time will come.
You mentioned the word parody. I know everyone hates talking about it, but parody's been one of those things that it's never really gone away in supercars. You go back 30 years when the category first started, and parody was that dirty word that hung around way back, probably before you were born, and then it's kind of sort of floated up here and there. But it makes the category, I guess, more exciting. It gets people talking. It gets people fired up as well. And I guess you enjoy it from that perspective because it puts you and the sport as a collective in the spotlight. It gets you noticed as well.
Oh, look, exactly. I often think if people are talking about parody and people are talking about the drama, it's a good thing for our sport because it puts eyeballs to the screens. As you mentioned, it gets people talking about it in conversations, whether they're at work or on the train to work or whatever they're doing in their daily routine. If we've got more people talking about the sport, whether it's good or bad, sometimes any publicity is good publicity. But I hate the word parody. To be fair, it's a dirty word in our sport. I hate bringing it up. I hate talking about it, but it can be a reality. It's just something that happens in our game, whether you like it or not. I think. With supercars in particular, there's a fairly big argument as to why we have parity issues, and I think it probably stems further away from not just what supercars can control, but probably the homologation process of our cars and our race teams, or the byproduct of what we have. So, essentially, you're being dictated by having two different teams with their own agenda trying to achieve parity for two different makes and models for the greater good of the sport. So that's where I could probably argue why we have parity issues. So I think there's probably some things that should be changed, but that's just my personal opinion. That's everyone's got their own take on it all. But I think unless that changed, and I think history has shown, as you mentioned, in the last 10 years that I've been involved in the sport, I've seen some pretty different swings in who's had the upper advantage due to parity, and that from my point of view, I think that just comes down to the homologation team doing a better job than the other of how much they can get away with in the homologation process.
Yeah.
Because that's dictated by supercars. So until supercars takes full ownership of homologating the cars, building the cars, dictating what teams can do, I think you're always going to have issues. So watch that space.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take my controversial hat off now and I'll stop talking about that.
I want to move on because I looked at your career milestones. You've done a lot in your 10 years in supercars, from Super 2 into the main game, but people really got to know you quite well in 2013 with the Shannons Supercar Showdown, the reality TV series, which actually discovered Cam Waters. Cam Waters won, I think, the very first one in 2010. I think it was 2010, 2011. And he's gone on to do some fantastic things now, obviously, with Tickford Racing. But you won the 2013 reality series, and you won yourself a test and also a test drive for what is now Tickford Racing. Talk to us about what it actually meant to win that series and what it meant for you moving forward in your career back in that time.
Oh, it was a huge opportunity. And I saw that opportunity when Cam Waters competed in the show, and I knew what that show could do for me if I was featured in it. And I actually reached out to the production team the following year, or Kelly Racing, I think, was involved as well. So I actually reached out to Kelly Racing and didn't get selected. And then didn't even know that they were going to be doing a third series the following year. And I remember getting a phone call as I was driving home from school one afternoon and said, "You've been shortlisted to be on the show." So that was really cool. And obviously to work with, drivers that I looked up to as a kid, both Winterbottom and Will Davison. It was a pretty special moment. Never really been involved in the supercars scene before. I was still running in Formula 3 at the time, and at a bit of a crossroads in my career. We were running out of money. We sort of didn't have the support to make that next step, whether supercars wasn't even on our agenda at that stage. So it was a pivotal point, not only to be on the show and get some good exposure as a young kid, trying to break through, but also show what I could do in a supercar, and obviously to win this show was amazing, and getting that first opportunity behind the wheel of a supercar was obviously super special, but probably didn't appreciate how much that changed my outlook for my supercar career to where it is today. So obviously, got my first shot with Tickford Racing at a test drive there at Winton. Went really well, and at that stage was looking back now, it's crazy to think how things might have been totally different. I had an opportunity to race in the Super 2 Series with Tickford Racing, but they'd actually just signed Cam Waters a couple of weeks before, and he actually tested on the same day as myself. So looking back, how different that might have been if there was an opportunity there with that team, if that wasn't the case. But in retrospect, Tim gave me a phone. He said, you need to give Matt Stone a call. He's got an opportunity there, and he might be interested in signing you up. And 6 years later, I was still with that team, and we won the Super 2 Championship together. So it certainly opened up huge opportunities for me in the sport. And look back at that as a very cool memory in my career, especially at a young age.
That's really cool. You were saying Supercars wasn't on your radar at that time. You did mention Formula 3. You finished runner-up in the Australian Formula 3 Championship, which at that time was still carrying the Gold Star Award, so you just missed out on winning the Gold Star, but you won many races in Formula 3. Unfortunately, the category just didn't have that recognition in terms of the national landscape. It didn't get the publicity that it deserved. Where did you want to go at that point in time before Supercars came along?
I guess I was, very open to the idea of racing anything at that stage. I was just a young kid with a desperate goal of wanting to be in the sport, and money was running out. We'd already mortgaged the house to get through Formula 4 and Formula 3 just within 2 years space. We're fortunate to have some good supporters with Fujitsu at the time. I was part of the Fujitsu Cool Driver program. Mm-hmm. And that was just keeping us on the grid. At that stage, I remember walking through the paddock in supercars and Super 2 even, and looking at the Super 2 operation thinking, wow, how do these guys even afford to do this? It was so far out of reach at that stage for us. So, and when I say that wasn't on the radar, it was certainly the goal, but it was just simply unachievable at that stage for us. Getting that opportunity and getting some media, getting some spotlight really helped, make that next step into supercars commercially viable. And don't get me wrong, we still had to take a big financial hit. We mortgaged the house again. It was the last time it was really the last shot as a family. We put all the eggs in the basket. We said, well, it's now or never. I'm either going to make a career in the sport and call myself a race car driver, or I'm going to go back to plan B and finish off my mechanical apprenticeship. So that was what we did. In 2014, we stepped up to Super 2. We got Rookie of the Year, and we raced on. So we kept the dream alive, so to speak. But,
is it true? Sorry to interrupt. Is it true that you actually did a few of the Bunnings sausage sizzles to try and conjure up some funds as well to try and keep you going?
We did more than a few. Yes, we started out doing 2 or 3 a month when I was in Formula 3. So then it was almost like a full-time operation. So I was doing 3 or 4 fundraiser barbecues a week back in Super 2 days, just trying to raise funds, trying to get cash to pay the bills to go racing. It was a huge commitment. We were all working full-time, day and night, trying to just simply find money to go racing. It was a crazy time. Obviously, sponsorship in this game is tough. And when you're starting out young, you need to obviously have someone underpinning you to help grow your dream, or you've got the wealth behind you to be able to do it. So those opening years of Super 2 was tough, but as you mentioned, there was a name there that you mentioned earlier, Jason Gomersall. He really took me under his wing after that first year in the Super 2 series, and he was my major backer from 2015 all the way to all the way through, even into the Supercars Championship. He was the one that put his hand up, put his arm around me. He taught me so much, both in life and in business. But obviously put his hand up to support me as well. So I'll be forever grateful for that. And obviously the team itself at MSR. It was a great time. I learned a lot. We worked hard, and we made the dream come true.
It also helped that Jason was a racer himself, racing in Touring Car Masters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was cool. We had the IC racing car there, or supercar next to his IC Toronto. It was it was a unique situation, I guess, having two races and having someone that was obviously super successful in his own time in business, but put his hand up to support people as well. And as I said, be forever grateful for that support. And for me, it's even more special to still have that friendship today.
That's really, really cool. Did you ever get to drive the Tirana?
I did it on a few occasions on test days, and that was a little absolute weapon. Loved it. It was used to do low 14s around Queensland Raceway, which is very competitive for a 1970s Tirana.
and it's fits right up your alley because you love your resto car, or your retro cars, I should say. And well, I mentioned before you've got the Ford Falcon wagon that you've got in your collection now. I want to know about that because that's become a bit of a personal project for you. I'm sidetracking here from your career. I want to go onto your car. You've really taken it as a labour of love, and you really have embraced all the restoration, like right from the ground up. How did that come about? Getting the wagon, restoring it, and taking it, for weekend drives, car shows, and the like. It's really become a passion.
Yeah, exactly. As you mentioned, I love my cars, in particular old cars. I grew up in a family where I guess there was a lot of love for that 60s, 70s classic car scene. So for me, I've become somewhat obsessed with 70s Falcons. Pretty much every second poster on my wall was either anything from an XM to an XC Falcon.
Yeah.
Growing up as a kid, so pretty much knew all the details of all the Falcons growing up, from all the different codes, all the engine numbers, you name it. I was a bit of a Ford fanatic growing up, and always wanted to have a cool old Ford, growing up as a kid. So
yeah,
I've always been scanning marketplace, probably from the age of 10 to still today, looking for that dream car.
Did you get the trading post, maybe, like the actual physical trading post?
Yeah, I used to get Just Cars. I used to look through. I think it was Cars Guide, even on the newspaper. And
wow.
Growing up as a kid and highlighting to Dad, I want to buy this car. And, I remember because my dream car is a Ford XB Coupe, and I remember nagging Dad year after year, going, look at this one, look at that one, and this one's a 351, and I remember there was a red 351 XB Coupe for $7,500, and we obviously were racing go-karts, and we had no space at home to even put it somewhere. And Dad said, well, where are we going to put it? Dad would always say, where are you going to put it? We can't afford that, son. And I look back now and think, man, $7,000 for an XB Coupe, that was running and drivable. I think, wow, it's probably a $50,000-$60,000 car now. But anyway, that's another subject. But I guess painting a picture where it all started. So wanted a coupe, couldn't afford a coupe, didn't get a coupe. But the alternative was that on the Hazelwood family, we had a farm that was going up for sale. We're having a yard sale, and it was actually my grandfather's Ford Zephyr that was in the shed. Hadn't ran since late 70s. It was registered, but it'd been on the farm since growing up as a kid. And so I actually took that off the farm, and that was part of my restoration project. So I took that on when I was 12, and wanted to have it up and running now, but haven't. So the alternative was I wanted to get a project that I knew was a little bit rough and ready, but wouldn't take me too long to be able to get it out and enjoy it, because I love driving old cars. I love turning away from all the electrics, all the modernized stuff that you get. I feel like there's no better way of just relaxing and going for a cool cruise and something that's old. You feel the mechanicals of the car. It doesn't have to necessarily be fast. It's just, wind the windows down, get back to basics and just switch off from the world. I really enjoy that aspect. So always loved wagons. Always wanted a wagon when I was in school. Nearly bought an XM wagon a few times and didn't happen. Too rusty and whatever. It wasn't running. Didn't have enough money. But saw this XC wagon pop up on Marketplace. It was pretty rough description. It was just basically said all original. It's a Falcon wagon. Didn't have what it was. Inquire within, essentially. And so that I did. And there was only a couple photos, pretty vague. I could see a little bit of rust. I was, I'll send a message and see what happens. And I said, if you got any more photos, and how original is original, basically. And yeah, got the photos and then soon realised, wow, this is a bit of a hidden gem. So raced out to Gatton in Queensland, country of Queensland, sorry, and looked at it and realised, yeah, I need to snap this one up. So I hadn't ran in 20 odd years, but yeah, it was pretty solid car. Didn't have too much rust, which was a big thing for me, but all original. So that original paint, original running gear, original engine. The interior was immaculate, and I knew it wouldn't take me too much to get it on the road. So within half an hour of playing with the carby and getting a few blockages out, we had the thing purring like a kitten. She just sat there idling away, and yeah, got it ready for the 2021 Cooley Rocks car show last year. We hadn't even polished the paint or anything. We just drove it down there rough and ready. Pretty much seized a wheel bearing on the way back from it, but that was yeah, that was a cool weekend, just getting it on the road and just enjoying it. And yeah, it's been obviously done a decent overhaul on it now, but it's a real solid cruiser. It's a 3 on the tree, 4.1, so it's slow as hell. It's like the Queen Mary going around the corners, it rolls left to right, and it heaves up and down nice and slowly. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun, and it's just big old girl, and it's slow as hell, and yeah, a lot of fun to drive.
That's really, really cool. It's not like the Tirana, is it?
No, very much the opposite to the Tirana.
That's really, really cool. And you obviously take a lot of pride in it. You've shown it up on social media, particularly on Instagram, and you are very, very proud of it. Are you going to keep evolving with that car, or are you going to keep tinkering it here and there where you can and just drive it around into the car shows and just show it off?
Yeah, and for me, it's not really showing it off either. It's just enjoying it.
Yeah.
From my point of view, I don't really get too much off time in between the Supercars Championship commitments. We're actually busier away from the track than where we are on track sometimes, and it's a pretty savage lifestyle. So for me, even if it's driving to a meeting up the coast, so rather than just driving my everyday ute, I'll if it's a nice sunny day, I'll take the wagon out, and then just it's a cool way for me, as I said, just to switch off and enjoy it. I think I've only taken it to one Cars and Coffee so far because my time is just never available on those sorts of events. So I've taken it down to Cooley Rocks Car Show 2 years in a row, but not to enter it, just to actually be there and be part of the show. It's, as I said, the car scene is something that I really enjoy. I love old cars. I love hot rodders. Everyone's always got a smile on their face, and all they do is talk about cars, and I can relate to that. That's something that I feel like I fit in well. So the car itself, it's, as I said, it's all original. It's got the all original paint. I got a couple of rust repairs done on it recently from my good friends at Exclusive Customs. They helped me out there and just tidied up a few little sections I wasn't happy with, but just want to try and keep it all original, to be honest. It's such a good, honest car. It's only got 120 odd thousand Ks on the clock, so it's still pretty new car for a what is nearly a 50-year-old Falcon. Just want to have something that I can. It turns the key pretty much every time I turn it on, even if I haven't driven it for a couple of weeks. A couple of pumps of the pedal and she fires up straight away, which is pretty cool. I guess want to just have that as a fun cruiser and preserve it as much as I can. I don't want to drop a V8 into it. I don't want to put wheels on it. I don't want to go crazy and put airbags or anything silly like that. It's got its original stance. It's got the original hubcaps on it. I'll just enjoy it now that I've got it tidied up and cleaned up as much as I can get it done. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Got a bit of OCD in me, I think. So everything has to be spotless. Everything has to be clean. So I've cleaned it up as much as I can now, and put some more focus now back into the Zephyr, which is still an ongoing project. It's been going for far too long, and I've probably spent too much money on it now. But anyway, that's a whole nother story.
I want to touch on the Zephyr. Before we do, have you had to fight the keys with your partner to drive it, or has she just left it to you to drive?
She's left it for me to drive now, but she does want to drive it. So, and she's actually wanting to launch a new bikini label soon, which is coming out. And it's all based around sunflowers. So sunflowers and a big yellow XC wagon. I think that's sort of going together quite well. So so in time that I think she wants to learn how to drive through on a tree. She's never driven that before. So
That's really cool.
She'll be behind the wheel sooner rather than later.
That's really cool. And she races as well. So you obviously both race together. She does a fair bit of karting. You do some karting here and there when time allows it. It helps when you've got someone that you date who shares the same passion as cars and motorsport as you do.
Oh yeah, it's super cool. I have to pinch myself to think I have a missus that loves cars and loves racing just as much as me, which is really special. She was racing. I was racing in Sydney, and she was racing a go-kart up in Bundaberg on the weekend. So yeah, we're both racers at heart. She's a competitive soul as well. She loves to win. When she's the happiest bee you'll see when when she's away from the racetrack. But you put a race helmet on her, and she's a different person, which is quite funny, I reckon. But yeah, she loves her old cars too. I think I've started to transform her into this old soul that I am as well.
Yeah.
So she wants to get a project car as well. I think she's always loved Herbie. So I think maybe a Beetle's on her list to get in the future, maybe. So watch that space.
That would be really cool, actually. That'd be really, really cool to have a Herbie in the collection. Tell us about the Zephyr. I love the fact that you found this barn find, which was on your family farm, and it's taken a bit of a while to get the car going. But tell the listener, what is a Ford Zephyr, and how did it come to be that you've got this project which is still ongoing, and it's become a bit of a labour of love for you, just as much as the Falcon has been?
Yeah, it certainly has been a lot of labor of love and a huge project. Never appreciated, I guess, the project as big as it was ever going to be to where it is now. That's for sure. But yeah, I come across the Zephyr when I was went before I could walk. We used to go up to the family farm, when I was a kid, and learned to drive in an old tractor, and the Zephyr was always parked there next to it. So when they were essentially going to try and give it away, it was worth essentially nothing at that stage. It was actually going to be, fun fact, it was actually going to be purchased by the McLeod's daughter's TV producer. They were going to actually have it as their wedding car, but they assessed the car and said it was too rough and they weren't going to buy it. So that was my time to shine, and I was nagging Dad for that project car, and I said, well, why don't we take the Zephyr? We'll put it at my uncle's place, and I'll work on it on spare weekends. And obviously spare weekends did hardly exist when I was racing go-karts, so I didn't get to work on it much growing up. But I did manage to strip it right down. Took the engine apart, started rebuilding the engine as a 12-year-old, and I learned a lot. That was essentially trying to strip something down that I knew nothing about. There was no service manual, there was no booklet, there was no YouTube tuitions of how to pull apart a Ford Zephyr, because a Ford Zephyr is not really the most desirable car, and there's not really much around, to be fair. If you talk to your father or your grandfather, they would all say, oh yes, the Zephyr, I learned to drive in one of them, or yeah, I had one on the farm, or I had two of them, but I think they all got rusted away, or they all got pushed into a dam, and people either buried them or got rid of them because they just weren't a car that they wanted to have. So you just hear all these stories about them, and it blows
don't
my
give
mind.
that impression. Thank you very much. But I understand what you...
The Zephyr I've got, it was so my grandfather actually bought it brand new in 1955, and kept it in the family. He got married in it. They went on family trips. My dad learnt to drive in it. My uncle learnt to drive in it. It became a bit of a paddock basher. They went spotlighting in it and a few other bits and pieces, but It was still a pretty good, honest, complete car, which was a good thing looking back, because getting parts is tremendously tough. You can't just go into Rare Spares and get a huge catalogue of Mark 1 parts. All you can get is a door seal kit, and that's it. So it's been really tricky to try and obviously preserve the originality of the car as much as I can, because the idea is to bring it back to original in my best way possible, because unfortunately, because the parts are so hard, a lot of people will retrofit them. They'll put like little 289 Windsors in them, or they'll put something that's a bit easier to complete the car and get it back on the road. So for me to try and keep the original straight six in it, it's got the oil bath set up in it. It's got a big hockey stick style exhaust. It's a very unique looking engine, which I think is cool. But yeah, it's basically like a 50s lime green color. We're going to be putting white walls on it. It's got full red leather interior. So red seats, red door cards, red carpet. That's how it come out in original. So very wild and bold colours for a 50s car, which is pretty cool. But yeah, at the moment, the car's, I'm here in Melbourne today, and it's in the shed, completely stripped. There's not one bolt left on the body, or it's been in a position where I've had it ready to be either blasted or get ready to do the bodywork. Since COVID, I actually got a lot of work done during COVID, but the last couple of years I've been here, there and everywhere, living out of a suitcase and haven't had the chance to work on it. So I've got life all over the place. I've got the wagon in Queensland. I've got the Zephyr in Melbourne. I've got the engine that's almost finished being rebuilt in Adelaide from a good friend over there. So yeah, there's stuff going on everywhere. But yeah, the engine, I should say the car itself. Yeah, I've got a lot of the running gear close to being finished. It's not done, but it's hopefully once the big step is the body. There's a bit of rust in the floors. The floor pans need to be cut out. Bit of rust in the firewall, and where the boot lid is, but the body itself is actually pretty straight, which is good considering the life that I had as racing around on the farm and knowing my dad was a bit of a lunatic back in the day. So I'm sure it would have done a few skids in the paddock in its time. So yeah, it's just a labour of love, and as I said, I got it when I was 12, and I'm 28 this year, so it's a long stint. Looking at this thing and talking about it, but yeah, I feel like I'm on the final stages now. It's still a long road to go yet, but making good progress. And fortunately now being involved in, I guess, in the supercars industry, where I've been able to get some really good connections and contacts where I can get people to do some great work on it and trust that I get a great product in return. So yes, I've been really lucky in that sense. And yeah, hopefully in years to come, I can finally say that she's done and I can drive it.
Yeah, that's a really, really cool story, because the Ford Zephyr, it's a British car. So it's one of those cars that was very predominantly British back in the day. And you could say it was the Falcon before it became the Falcon. So it's one of those cars that was very iconic for its time. But like you said, probably wasn't the best looking car, but it definitely had a very British feel about it as well, which probably adds to the character, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It was you couldn't said it better. It's essentially the Falcon before the Falcon. Essentially, the Zephyr come in as a flagship product from the UK, but my Zephyr in particular is actually an Australian assembled Zephyr. So there's a lot of UK Zephyrs around, but not many Australians assembled. There's a few differences there. So I'm a big, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a big fan of the history of automotive industry. I'm a bit of a Ford man at heart, as you can probably tell.
I can tell, yes.
I just appreciate anything cool and old. I wouldn't care if I had a 70s Pontiac or a Tirana in my backyard. It's I appreciate anything that's cool and old, and I wouldn't change that for anything.
What do you think people are missing when they drive a current car now compared to driving something that's 30, 40 years old? What do you think is the essence that is missing in a current generation car?
I think it's just the human connection with the car itself. We're so lucky now where technology is so damn good in the automotive industry, where you can turn something up, you can smash the throttle in a Ford Focus, and you can go from 0 to 60 in the click of the fingers, and the thing hasn't warmed up yet. It's still running cold. You haven't even checked the tire. You wouldn't even know where the tire pressures are. The suspension is doing everything that it should. And you can get that in a car that costs $20,000. The brand new cars of today are so good. And the cars are faster, they handle better, they're nimble, they're lighter, they do everything that we want. We've got all the accessories, and we sort of lost touch of what a car actually does. You don't feel when you drive around these days, you don't really think about all this stuff. But when you drive an old 70s cars in peak hour traffic, and you've got people running up behind you, or they're cutting you off, and you think, man, I haven't hardly got any brakes, and this thing's big. It's old, and it's fragile, and I'm listening to all the noises it's making, and you're trying to get you slowly winding in the choke as you start driving down the road because it's still warming up, and it's a totally different feeling when you're behind the wheel of an old car. That's what I personally love and enjoy, because you're mechanically at one with the car. You've got to understand and appreciate what you're driving, because if you don't, you'll crash into someone, you'll rear end someone because you're not paying attention. If you're not listening to a sound, next time you drive it, it's going to become an issue, and the thing won't start, or you'll be broken down on the side of the road. So it's a totally different feeling, and it frightens me how good new cars are, but it still doesn't have, for me personally, what's the point of having a 911 GT3 Porsche straight from the factory 2023 as a road car, and the speed limit's 60k an hour. Like, the cars are so fast today. Like, no wonder people are running into each other, and we've got issues on the road because the cars are so easy to drive. So people aren't paying attention half the time they drive now because you got lane assist. People, they tell you when to brake, or the car will brake for you, and you naturally switch off as a driver. You're not paying attention. I don't care what anyone says. I think everyone would be guilty of it. They pick their phone up because they're bored when they drive. You know, you drive an old 70s Falcon, you got no power steering, so you're constantly driving the thing. You're changing gears. Your foot's on the clutch. You're doing everything that you can just to drive the thing and keep the thing on the road.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a totally different experience. And, you know, obviously a 3 on the tree 4.1, it's not the fastest thing from 0 to 60, but, you know, that's what I think probably why we have so many issues on the road today, because every car is so fast, it's so zippy, but we're not paying attention when we drive at all. And, you know, I'm a big advocate for road safety, and, you know, I've been working in that as an ambassador space for the Get Home Safe Foundation. And, you know, I constantly talk about, you know, we always talk about, well, what can we do to make safety better, or how can we make the awareness better on our roads? I don't think really the driver has changed. It's just we're just taking for granted of how good cars are, and it just makes people, simply not aware of what they're doing behind the wheel these days. So I think, people growing up in yesteryears, you know, people talk about, oh, you know, I used to drive an old car, but, you know, they were the days. But they sort of were in a way, because, you know, everyone had to appreciate what they were doing, and they realized if you ran into someone with a chrome bumper, it was going to hurt as well. So there's probably a bit more respect on the road as well for that reason, I like as well.
This is the Motor Dream Podcast.
You've made it very clear. You are a car nut. I'm very, very happy to see that. But I want to know a little bit more. I want to try and dig in a little bit more about your love of cars. So I want to ask you a few simple questions. The first question is, what was the first car you drove?
First car well, it wasn't actually a car. It was a truck. Actually, it was a Maxwell truck, 1927
nice.
Maxwell truck. So I used to sit on my dad's lap and drive that around. So that was basically the first time I had a steering wheel in my hand and driving around. But I guess first car that on the road, you know, had my license really was a 1990 Nissan Pintara. That was
how
sky
fun!
Blue, faded paint, the works, lowered, leaking. A bit of a disaster interior, but it had 400,000 Ks on the clock. It was a solid everyday car. Didn't let me down once. It was a very good first car, and lots of memories in that old rocket ship.
That's really cool. That's really 400,000 Ks.
It was a very, very impressive car.
And I think there were Australian built cars too, like the Australian Pintaras. They were a very good car.
It was Australian model. So it was good old thing.
Was that the R31 Skyline based Pintara, or was it the one?
Yeah, it wasn't the box style Skyline. It was more looking sort of like a Silvia front end, but in a four door, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was the last of the Pintaras before Nissan shut up shop here in the country. What about the first road trip you remember going on?
Oh, we've done a lot as a kid. We used to do a lot of camping before we used to even go racing. Probably the one that stands out to mind. We went camping. It was sort of like our first off-road adventure, proper off-road. We went to Inaminka in country South Australia. It was freezing cold. I remember we left a jerry can out of water. It was frozen overnight.
Oh no!
That was my sister and I. It was our first bonfire together. We burnt each other with sticks. All that sort of fun stuff. So
I can use this as firepower against your sister. So that used to fight.
Cool memory. Yeah.
That's really cool. Who taught you how to drive?
My dad. Yeah. No, he taught me a lot growing up. He was never a full-blown racing car driver, but he helped me with the basics of racing lines and braking deep and being fair as a sportsman. You know, he always said, you know, you always shake each other, you know, always shake your driver's hands and never spit the dummy, all that sort of stuff. So never throw your gloves in the seat. all that sort of stuff. So he kept me pretty grounded. Dad's a pretty straight shooter. He's a line in the sand operator, if you call it. So yeah, he taught me well, and yeah, thank him for that.
That's really, really cool. All right, here's a good one. What feature do you wish they would bring back into modern day cars? Something from the bygone era, your classic car era that you'd like to see in a modern day car.
Oh, great question. Open face helmets.
Really?
For starters, I reckon open face helmets. You see all the expression in the driver and what they're doing with their lips and their tongue. I think it's awesome. So we'll bring that back. But for the car, the sounds. Bring back the raw sound. I think I still have that engine note of the era of the 70s where everything was loud, it was proud, it was lumpy, it was it was sounds is what makes sport different. It makes something different, unique from what people want to see when they go to the racetrack. They want to see something that they can't see driving down the street. And I think the supercars are still loud and they got a unique sound, but something that's got a bit more balls to it. You want something that's lumping away in pit lane, and you want people putting fingers in their eardrums going, how cool is this?
Yeah.
So bring that back. That's, yeah.
Have you
that would be one.
Just off topic slightly, have you got an open face helmet? I know you wear a full face helmet, but do you have an open face?
No, I don't. No.
Oh, come on.
No, I got an open visor. That's as close as I can get. That legally let me do that.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And that's your dog in the background, is it? Or
it's my sister's dog. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Are you looking after the cat as well? Because I know your sister's got a cat, Stevie. So
yeah, Stevie's right next to me. Actually, he's hidden away in his little cocoon right by my foot.
That's really cool. Stevie the Silver Tabby, by the way. If anyone wants to find the cat on Instagram, can't believe that Stevie's got his own Instagram. That's really cool. What about the worst car that you've ever owned? I know you have a fondness for the old Pintara, but has there ever been one car in particular that you've absolutely despised and could not wait to get rid of?
I haven't owned many cars, but I had one car that I did have, and I hated it. It was a Holden Colorado. That was a shitbox. Did not like it at all. Did nothing good. So that's the top of the list for sure.
That's wow. That's pretty straightforward. Very blunt.
Yeah.
I know you've raised I know you've raised Holdens and the like, but did that really fuel your hatred for Holdens even more?
No, it wasn't. That's not even a hate to Holden. It wasn't a good car. It used a lot of fuel. It broke down on me.
Yeah.
I think I got a dud. There's no question about it. But I'm glad I got rid of that one.
Okay. All right. Next one. And here's another interesting question. What's something you wish more people knew about cars?
I think appreciating cars is one thing. And you hear disaster stories of how people don't service a car for like 20,000 Ks and they think that's okay, and then they get robbed by the mechanic and wonder why the thing breaks down. There's just such a lack of understanding of the basics of cars. I think if you grew up, if you're a young kid growing up in the 60s and 70s, you're essentially educated of how to look after a car, whether that be in school or when you got out of school, because if the thing broke down, you couldn't get to work. And people today, they just simply don't appreciate what the car does. Obviously, as I said, technology is so good they can half get away with it. But you hear disaster stories, and it just brings a tear to my eye.
Yeah, you get no argument out of me for that one. All right, car fads. Yes or no? Like stickers on the car or the fluffy dice or the air freshener. Are you for them or against them?
On an exterior point of view, I hate it. I hate stickers on cars. I hate stickers on windows. I used to be that guy growing up when I was a kid, so I totally get it. I know where that comes from.
Mm-hmm.
I used to think it was cool, but yeah, I don't. I like a clean look. I'm a very clean guy. But I do have an Elvis shaker on my rear mirror on my wagon, so he shakes his hips to me when I'm going over bumps. So that's funny. But that's probably as close as I'll get to putting anything in the car.
Okay, all right, that's acceptable. Elvis shaker, yeah, I guess that's okay. We could allow that.
It's sort of like period correct sort of feel for the car.
Yeah,
so.
That's true. That's true. What's in your glove box right now?
Books. because I got nowhere to store my good books. All my books that I want to read and I haven't read yet, they're all in there, and a service manual.
That's fair enough. And
It's random, but yeah.
yeah, very random. And finally, eating in cars. For it or against it?
I spend a lot of time on the road. So on my daily car, yes, because you got to get stuff done. And when you're going from meeting to meeting, job to job, you need I live out of my car basically. So I'm drinking coffee. I've got meals on the go, but I make sure I clean up. I don't just leave crumbs in the seat for 2 months and think that's okay. That's not okay.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
One more question. I thought I'd better add this. The best memory in a car. Now, be PG about it. We've got to be clean about this one here. So, the best memory you've had in a car.
Even if it wasn't PG, that wouldn't be my best memory in the car anyway. So that's all right.
Okay, good.
There's a few. It's hard to probably narrow it down, I guess. But
well, tell us a few that you're
childhood memories, like my dad used to have a little Mini Cooper. We lived in an area where we're right on the brink of the Adelaide Hills, and basically where they used to do all the classic Adelaide or Adelaide rally stages.
That's right. Yeah.
So I used to remember sitting in the passenger seat with Dad, holding on for dear life, getting thrown around, zipping through the hills in the little Mini. It was a lot of fun. So that's probably one that stands out as a cool memory growing up as a kid. Today I've been pretty lucky where I've been pretty fortunate to drive some cool cars, old cars, new cars, race cars. Hard to narrow it down.
Yeah.
One. I don't know. Like probably, like driving, like when I drove the Formula Ford for the first time, like that was cool. Like on an open race, that was the first time I'd ever been on an open circuit at Winton, driving something with a dog gearbox. That was a cool moment. I don't know. As far as I don't know. That's a good one. You've got me. You stumped me.
It's nice. It's nice when it's nice to get an answer like that. We go, oh, you got me stumped there. That's
it's lots of cool memories. Like I've been fortunate to drive cars. Like I've driven a GT40. That was pretty cool. Driven some really old cars. Actually, there's one that comes. I completely skipped my mind. I got to drive the Peter Brock Ford Sierra. That was the Mobile One Ford Sierra.
Yes.
That was all original. So I got to drive that just from where it was on display at Bathurst all the way back around the pit paddock to load it in the truck. So we're transporting it at the time. So that was a cool memory as well. I won't forget that.
Yeah, and really cool given that Brock drove it to Bathurst a couple of years, and you don't see too many of those because one was destroyed at Malala back in 1990, and I think there's only two left that Brock did drive. One's in the UK, where the other one's owned by Andrew Madecki up on.
Yeah, so that's the Madecki. Yeah, so it was freshly restored from the Madeckis, and we took it down to Bathurst for him in the Matt Stone Racing Transporter.
That's cool.
I'll never forget that. The thing wouldn't start properly, and it was lumping away through the pits, and everyone was egging me on to give him a rev. It was, pretty cool moment.
That's a cool story. All right, Todd Hazelwood. This is the reason why we got you on the podcast. You wake up one morning, you're probably on your way to your next race meet or whatever, and your phone goes off, and it says, please check your bank balance. You think, okay, what's going on here? So you check your bank balance. So you open up the app and everything, and you check it, and you find out that your bank balance has gone to billionaire type level. So you've got an infinite budget. You've become an Elon Musk type billionaire. And then you get an email from this mystery benefactor. You don't know who it's from or where it's come from, but it says you can do whatever you like with the money. You can buy anything you like, and you can buy any car, bike, or machine. But the caveat is you're only allowed 3 in your dream garage. So with that, it's tricky, isn't it? With that, what is the first machine that you would have in your dream garage?
Well, it's got to be the dream car because I don't know if I'll get it. So it's a 351 XB GT, color bumpered, in burnt orange.
Nice.
That would have to be number one. If I had 2 more, it'd have to be something that goes like the clappers that I can take out on the track and enjoy. So, probably like this is tricky. Like whether I've always had this dream of building a purpose-built, out-of-control race car, something like that's got that would have the bare bones of a GT40, for example, but dare to dream of what you could do to it. So I guess like a GT Enduro spec GT40, where it's just out of control, crazy, big motor, big brakes, big tires, something I could take to the track and scare myself with. I reckon that would be cool.
That's nice.
Yeah, so that would be number 2. Now number 3, whoa, I think you'd have to go. I'm gonna have to go big and say a 427 original Shelby Cobra, AC Cobra. Yeah.
That's really, really cool.
Big money car. Yeah, if I've got the money, I got to spend it, right? So
Exactly.
and, yeah.
Let's
That would be my 3.
okay. Let's touch on the 3 of them. Firstly, the XBGT. Now, I was going to ask you before, when you got the Falcon wagon, which obviously you love dearly, did you almost look at what Eric Banner did with his XBGT? Because given that he built that up from a standard XB coupe, he's built into his own beast kind of machine, as he calls it, and he still has it to this very day. Did you have something similar along those lines? You wanted to do something like that, or more original?
I think it would depend on the state that I got the car in. I still dare to dream that I want to get one, but
Yeah.
I'd love to say that I'd have a GT in my collection. That would be very cool, but I'd almost be too scared to drive it or take it anywhere as well. So I love the idea of getting, if I could find a coupe shell, something that's a bit rough and ready, and save it. I'd rather try and go down that route of getting something that hasn't had any love and put myself through the pain and torture that I've gone through in the Zephyr build and do it all again. And possibly make it like a, if that was the case, I would probably go something where it'd be more modernized running gear to a degree, not too modern because I don't like modern that much, but something with a good engine and good suspension that I could probably do some track running with, like what the Beast is. But if I got the dream car that was all original, I'd keep it all original and just enjoy it.
So keep it a 351 5.8 V8 with 4-speed manual, all through on the tree.
Yeah, have to be a 4-speed manual. Yeah, and 351. If it was a track car, I'd definitely have the side pipes shooting out like the glory days. But if all original, then I would have it as original as I can.
That's really cool. That's a really cool thing. Like the Ford Falcon. I love the XB Falcon, although I do love the XC, the front end of the XC. I think they're a little bit nicer than the XB, but the XB still looked really, really cool. And yeah, there's still something about the XB which still stands out even to this day. Like, would you even consider? Okay, hear me out. Would you even consider something like the John Goss special from?
100%. Yeah, the
John Goss special always stood out to be a nice car, so that it always looked good. It was really, I love the XB. They're really, really cool. Now
that's why they're so expensive to get.
I can imagine. Now the Ford GT40. Now, it was built obviously to win Le Mans. It did that. It beat Ferrari in its own game. And of course, and a movie's been made about that, Ford versus Ferrari. Everyone knows about that particular movie. But what would you do to your version of the GT40 if you had the choice to do so? You obviously said you want to put a bigger engine, bigger tyres and everything. What would you do to it?
I think what would be cool is to have a period spec engine. So it'd be like a 427... open inlet manifold, big exhaust, something that screams balls, something that wants to go fast. When you hit the ignition and turn it on, you want something that scares little kids driving down the street because it's so loud. But then I guess to have something that goes fast as well, like to feel that, I guess, that hardcore mechanical aspect when you're driving it and you got the engine behind you and it's screaming its head off, but to obviously have good brakes, good tires, something with modernized geometry where the thing handles well and goes as good as what it looks as well. But then keeping in mind that not to go to JDM spec on wings and aerofoils, and maybe something that's got more ground effects car to make it go faster than what it looks. So yeah, that would be it.
Well, the GT40, the original iteration of it, there were about 105 of them that were built between 1964 to 69, and it came in about 4 different various power plants. It went from a 255 V8 to a 427, which is the one that you want, and it also came with either a 4-speed or a 5-speed manual. So, which one would you choose, the 4 or 5-speed?
Well, I think 4-speed would be cool because you'd certainly be in the RPMs a lot more, screaming its head off. But I think either. I wouldn't mind.
Okay, that's really cool. That's really cool. And what about the color scheme? What would you have it as?
I think it's hard to go past the original look. So it'd have to have the original GT40 stripes. So it'd have to have the black dot on the door with the number. Whether it'd have a number on there or not, I'm not sure. Still not sure if I'd have it in a Golf livery, but it'd have to be one of the original. I really like the original race livery of Ken Miles. That was a pretty iconic livery, very clean, very basic, and obviously a hero car for Ford as well.
Yeah. And did you see the movie?
Oh, I've watched it more than a few times. Yeah, love it.
It is a good movie. I love the bit when Matt Damon's character, which is, of course, Carroll Shelby, had to explain why Ford should reinvest in going back to Le Mans and beating Ferrari. And that's a really cool scene when he's talking to Henry Ford II, and it's just to convince Henry Ford that it was worthwhile to go back and challenge again. That's a really cool scene. If you haven't looked at it, go on YouTube and find it. I'm sure there's clips of it that show the story. It's really cool. Now, the AC Shelby Cobra, getting an original is, I know we're talking the budget and everything else, it's infinite, but getting a real one, it's very, very hard to find because a lot of people that I see on the roads that drive Cobras are usually driving replicas but what makes it so good about having an original Cobra if you had the money to do so?
I'd only ever get one if I had the money to do it, put it that way.
Yeah.
They're one of the most collectible cars in the world. As far as originality, as I said before, I love history and the originality of things. So I certainly appreciate something where it come from in the factory, the men and women who built and designed the things, and you appreciate it for what they are, as opposed to getting something that's more new and modern and doesn't really have that same feel about it, I guess. But don't get me wrong, you can get fantastic kit cars and so forth. But to get an original one, my dad has had an original AC Cobra poster on the garage wall, still is today at the family home. He loved and talked about it growing up. So I guess that's sort of where that stems from, as far as why I would like something like that. But it's just you look at the thing, it just screams badass. It's a cool car. It's the engineering of its time is pretty wild in agriculture. I think they're only a single rail chassis, big engine. Well, obviously the hero car had a big engine in them. I guess there was sort of the bare bones of what the GT40 become in a way.
Yeah.
Obviously once Carroll Shelby got his hands on it, so bit of a Shelby flavor going on here. But I guess with those 3 cars that I've mentioned, they're all big engine cars. They're all got a lot of history to them. They got street appeal. They're unique in the way that they look and drive. So why not? If you've got the money, I'll call up Lewis Hamilton. He's got 2 of them and go, hey brother, I want to buy one of yours. How about that?
Exactly. I love it, and it's a very Ford influenced garage here, I can tell. You've made no secret of the fact that you are a Ford fan. So
if you gave me 10 cars, it might have been a little bit different. But yeah.
Well, if you have any honourable mentions, what would you include? I'll give you honourable mentions.
I'd love like a big Chevy Impala. 60s Impala would be cool, or a Bel Air. That big beautiful car. What else? What else could we fit on this list? I think like a drop tank, Tirana would be cool.
L34 or A9X?
A9X, why not? We'll go A9X.
Yep.
What else could we fit on this list? RT Charger.
Ooh.
Yeah, American Charger. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Just the good old boys with the A1 on the door would be pretty cool.
Nice.
For Bronco, that's the Ford, I guess. Can't fit that on the list. Ford Bronco would be cool though. What else have we got here? And then like a 30s hot rod. I wouldn't care if it was a Buick, a Chev, Ford, just something cool and old. Have a flathead V8 in it. Something like that would be nice.
Yeah.
What else can we squeeze?
The mind's wandering, isn't it? You got so much. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, like a sort of like an early 50s rat rod, bit of not like a chop roof, lowered, something like that. I wouldn't care what brand that was. So sort of painting a picture of where my dream garage is going.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah,
I can definitely see
a lot
that.
of old cool stuff. So not much modern in my list. That's
No, I love that. That's nothing wrong with a bit of retro there. That's a really, really cool list. There's a lot of honourable mentions in there, but the fact that your main 3 cars in your garage is very Ford influence, it says a lot that you really love Fords. You love the old style, the Falcons and the GT40s, and virtually like a big V8, be it a 427 or a 351. That's a really cool list. And as a Ford fan myself, and I'm unashamedly a Ford fan, I take great pride in that you share the appreciation as much as I do. Ford Falcon GT, the XB model GT, that's really cool, with the 351 V8 4-speed auto. The Ford GT40, fully enhanced, old school enhanced we're talking about, not the, no modern mechanicals in it, and the AC Shelby Cobra 427. That is, in my mind, a very, very good list. I'm utterly impressed. You're probably going to get a few people thinking, he's biased towards Fords because he drives a Ford in the supercars. But no, you show your appreciation that you really love Fords, and it's not just because you race one in the supercars. You really do have a great passion for it. It's fantastic. I'm utterly impressed.
Thank you. No, it's as I said, I'm just a car guy at heart, and I get to call myself a race car driver in the process. So I call myself lucky, I guess. But just like everyone else out there, loves cars, loves old cars, loves anything that moves fast or goes fast. It's a way of life.
Exactly. It's been a great joy talking to you, Todd. It's been great. Thank you so much, and all the very best for whatever happens in your career, be it in supercars, or if you go elsewhere in the future. I know you probably have aspirations to race overseas and do, like, say, GT racing or the like. And just before you go, do you have any plans to do any racing outside of supercars?
Don't have any plans yet, but certainly investing some time at the moment, trying to look if there is other opportunities out there, just to try and add to the curriculum. I like being busy than bored, as I say. So if I can get some extra rounds in somewhere and something, that would be amazing. So watch that space. Yeah,
well, if Shane Van Gisbergen can go and do great things in NASCAR, I'm sure you can do great things as well. So congratulations, all the very best for the future, and good luck at Bathurst.
No worries. Thanks, Connor. Appreciate the chat. Great to dive into some history, and hope people might see me as a bit of a different person to who they thought I was before. So appreciate the chat.
I think they will too. Thank you so much. Todd Hazelwood being an old soul? Well, at 28 years of age, he's definitely not at the old-timer stage of his life just yet. But in terms of his passion for old Fords and classic vehicles, he's definitely got the old soul feel and appreciation for these classic machines. And whilst the XE Falcon station wagon does get to enjoy the occasional weekend cruise when Todd and his partner Alice have free time, the Zephyr remains an ongoing project, and it's one that we're keen to see come to life once the job is fully complete. Now, since the recording of this interview, there's been a significant change of direction in Todd's career. Not long after the interview was conducted, Hazelwood was advised by BRT that his services for 2024 would not be required, and they would part ways at season's end. It was a bitter pill to swallow for the South Australian, who looks set to sit on the sidelines this year. Enter Erebus Motorsport, who snapped him up for the Enduro campaign in this year's championship as potential co-driver to defending champion Brody Kostecki. But of course, motor racing is never predictable. Now, as you may already be aware, Kostecki is currently on the sidelines as both Erebus Motorsport and himself continue to work their way through the current contractual issues. Now, in fairness to both sides, we're not going to get involved in any of the politics that's currently going on. That said, it has suddenly opened the door for Todd to return to the main game, where he got the call up to join the championship winning team and drive Kostecki's car in a caretaker role. And what an opportunity for the South Australian. Having performed strongly at the opening round of the championship at Bathurst a few weeks ago, Hazelwood will again steer the 99 Erebus Chevrolet Camaro at the Formula One Australian Grand Prix in a few weeks' time. And we thought it was great timing to get him back on and catch up with him on this unexpected opportunity.
This is the Motor Dream Podcast.
Well, Todd, it's good to have you on the show again. It's been quite a journey for you since we last spoke to you in the second half of last year. A lot of things have changed, and here you are now racing for Erebus Motorsport in the big time. So it's a massive opportunity for you.
Yeah, thank you, Connor. Great to be back on the show and have a chat. Yeah, certainly my world has essentially been flipped on its head and turned
Yes.
inside out. So I tell you what, it's probably been one of the most craziest months that I've experienced in my lifetime. Obviously going into the into last year, knowing that I was going to be on the sidelines as a full-time driver, but also at the same time excited about joining the team at Erebus Motorsport as a co-driver, which was obviously the initial plan, and spent a lot of time in the off season understanding what else I was going to be doing, and got involved in the Trans Am program with TFH Hire, which was exciting, and obviously got the call up to fill in for Brody Kostecki for round one, which is obviously now going into round two at the Melbourne Grand Prix. So yeah, crazy month, but hey, that's the beauty of life. You just don't know what's going to happen, and sometimes you got to be at the right place at the right time, and fortunately for me, it's worked out famously in this instance.
Well, we don't want to talk about too much about the political side of things, of what's going on at Erebus and Brody. That's none of our business. We want to talk more about you. Like you said, right place at the right time. Were you pinching yourself when you got the call up to fill in as a caretaker in Brody's car?
Yeah, to be honest, I woke up the next morning and had to check my phone to make sure that the message that I'd sent myself was actually correct. 'Cause, it was really one of those pinch yourself moments to actually just get my head around what was actually happening and what's going on. So obviously, it's a pretty unique circumstance for me to jump in the car. So, but yeah, at the same time, it was just great to obviously now get another opportunity, knowing that it was going to be a front-running car, and essentially walking into the championship, winning the team that had fantastic success in the 2023 season. So, just took it with both hands, and basically got to work straight away from the next following day. I got stuck into it, flew down to Melbourne the day later, and spent what was the next week and a half before we went testing. So it all happened very quickly, and just had to go full speed and try and get my head around everything, and dive into the deep end and have a crack.
What's been the biggest change for you from Blanchard's last year to Erebus? Obviously, Erebus, bigger team. Obviously, they've got a great group of people behind them. Betty's behind the team, of course, as the team owner. You've got Barry Ryan, Shannon Kylie, who's the managing director of the team. I mean, it's a very close-knit organisation, and a lot of people talk about how much of a family environment Erebus is. What's been the big difference?
Yeah, exactly. I think to have that opportunity where you can walk into the four walls of Erebus and straight away see why they were winning races and why they won a championship last year and why they're the championship winning team. At the end of the day, what they do inside those four walls is pretty impressive. They're not the largest team by scale in comparison to, say, the likes of DJR and Triple Eight and probably even Grove Racing. But certainly what stood out for me was how united everyone was within that team. Everyone's wired to win. Everyone wants to win. Everyone's got that same energy and burning desire in that team, which is really cool. And it's really hard to achieve that, and that stems from good management in my eyes. So certainly picked that up straight away, and they're very welcoming and very inviting for me, and certainly made me feel comfortable and confident that we could go to testing. Didn't matter that it was a last minute appointment, that we could still have a good test day, and give ourselves every chance of having a good run at Bathurst, which for me filled me with confidence, and still riding on that wave now of confidence. So it's been really cool, really enjoyable. Going to Bathurst, obviously there was a lot of spotlight and speculation on the team and even myself being appointed into the Car 99, but I actually really enjoyed the opportunity, and just knowing that the cars and the team have got all the ingredients to taste success is a really exciting prospect for myself from a selfish point of view. So loved every minute of it.
Do you feel like this is the first time in your career that you've got a genuine chance of winning a Supercars race?
You always put your best foot forward in a supercar race, no matter what. You just never know when your day might come. But for me, this does feel like a proper, genuine opportunity, where I know I've got the tools and I've got the ingredients to fight for success. Look, it's no word of a lie. It's been a pretty tolling and frustrating, and hasn't been the 6 years in the sport that I wanted it to be. I've got pretty high ambitions and high expectations, and I work really hard behind the scenes to achieve those goals that I have in place, and I certainly still got unfinished business within Supercars. So to now be given an opportunity of a lifetime with Erebus, I certainly feel that it is capable, but at the same time I still haven't won a race, and I've only got one podium to my name. So I certainly want to know what that feels like. I'm keen as mustard and working really hard to just try and take this unique opportunity with both hands. And hey, if we could go to Grand Prix and have a really good crack, and the results will always take care of itself. I just got to make sure I do a good job. So whatever happens, but it certainly is a golden opportunity.
Well, like you mentioned, you're going to Albert Park for the Australian Grand Prix. It is the second round of the championship, and it is, I guess, a unique round in a way that it evens out the playing field a little bit. Do you think that this is a great opportunity for you at Albert Park to really make your presence known, even if it doesn't lead to another round of the championship after this?
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's always that classic saying, you're only as good as your last race, and I've got 4 races at the Grand Prix to, I guess, show to the world what I can do, and hey, I'll be giving it my best crack, no word of a lie, to try and get some success over the course of those 4 days. As you mentioned, it's a very unique schedule for the event, spread out over 4 days. We don't get much time in qualifying. You normally only really get one good flying lap on a green tyre before the session's over. So it's a pretty intense style schedule for us, and I guess it separates the guys that are brave and put one good lap in, but they might mess up the next one, which puts them further in the back for the next race. So we tend to always see pretty mixed grid in qualifying at the Grand Prix for that reason as well. So as I said, I just got to put my best foot forward, try and do a really solid job, and if the car's fast and I'm onto it, and we're collectively doing a good job together, there's no reason why we can't have some good results and a good weekend. So I'm just as excited as I was going to Bathurst. It's one more round than what I planned to do this year. So you can't take the smile off my face.
No, I can imagine. I can hear it in your voice right now. It's really exciting, but even more exciting before the Grand Prix. You're off to Tasmania for Trans Am, second round of the championship with TFH Hire, and that was a bit of a last-minute deal, but you've actually enjoyed yourself racing Trans Am. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was always part of the plan for me in 2024 to run the Trans Am series. So I got to work at the end of last year working with the team at TFH Hire. They're brand new to motorsport as far as in circuit racing, but got a very successful status in Speedway with Brett Thomas in particular.
Yep.
The family's new to circuit racing and want to be part of helping them through that journey. And they sort of pinpointed me as a guy that they thought that could help them on that program. So Josh Thomas, who's one of Brett's young lads, he'll be running as well in Trans Am at Simmons Plains, which will be cool. And hopefully we can continue on the success that we tasted at round 1 at Sandown. We had a podium there, and we're comfortably on track for an overall podium result too, which was great. But we had a little mechanical drama. We actually had a stuck throttle out of all things, where the breather pipe off the rocket cover come off and got caught up in the throttle linkage, which which was a bit of a scare and put us down, threw us off the road when we were running third and in that final race at Sandown. So yeah, a little bit of unfinished business there that we still want to achieve. And the Trans Am's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. They're a pretty cool car to drive. They move around a lot on the cross-ply tyre, and the racing was super close as well at Sandown. So I think the top 8 was separated by less than 0.3 of a second in qualifying, and the racing was pretty action-packed, which, as a driver, that's what you want. You just want to have good, hard battles, and I'm really enjoying my time behind the wheel.
Absolutely. It's great to hear you actually smiling for a change, feeling happy with the way life is going on right now. We can't wait to see what happens to you at Albert Park and prior to that at Symmons Plains. Thank you again for coming back on for a quick catch-up, and what an opportunity. Congratulations. We wish you all the best for the rest of this year. Whatever might happen, obviously it'll all play out in the public forum, whatever happens with Erebus Motorsport. But if you do end up racing for them for the rest of the year, whatever happens, we'll be cheering on for you. So congratulations again, and all the very best of luck for the rest of 2024. And hopefully we'll get to see you on the podium, on the top step. So all the best and good luck.
Thanks, Connor. I like the sound of that too. So look, bring it on, and really appreciate the support. It means a lot. So thank you.
Well, whatever happens to Todd Hazelwood in 2024, the future seems to be looking pretty bright as the dream to win in supercars is closer than ever before. We wish Todd the very best of luck for the rest of the season. You can follow Todd on all the socials, which you can find in the show notes, as well as the show page on the Motor Dream podcast website. My profound thanks to Michael Good from Hybrid Digital Media for facilitating this interview. Many thanks also to Carly Hemmersley from Erebus Motorsport for supplying the images that you see in our social media posts. Well, that's it for this episode. Make sure you follow the show on all the socials with the handle The Motor Dream, which is also the hashtag, and head to the show's website at themotordream.com.au, where you can listen to episodes and find show notes and information on the show and the guests that appear. And if you like this episode, please like and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast, and leave a review also, because all the feedback that we receive, be it good or bad, helps improve the show. Thank you as always for listening, and remember, please drive safely on the roads wherever you go. I'm Connor McNally, and I'll see you next time on the Motor Dream Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Motor Dream Podcast. This series is proudly produced by Beast Productions.